Well, this is very exciting for me as All Elite Wrestling is making its debut across the prairies. Of course, Edmonton's already been hit. Regina is this Saturday at the Brandt Center for Collision, the brand new TV taping. Tons of stars going to be there. And one of them, who I dare say seems to be chasing a certain Luchasaurus and a TNT championship, the one and only Perfection Shawn Spears is here. How are you, sir?
Good, man. How are you? How are you? Hell of an introduction. Yes,
Hey,
yes.
it's
Jason,
almost like I do it for a living or something, but
right? You're not too bad at it. You're not too bad at it, man. I'm good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to get this out of the way first here, and by no means is it anything bad. I told you just before we started recording that you and I had met briefly once before. And when I say met, it was more like you're coming down the aisle. I got to shake your hand and share something with you. And it was after you returned in Toronto and you had told us everything about what had been going on with the passing of your mom, with your new baby, and I mean, you tore our hearts out. But for me especially, I remember I was standing on the concourse taking photos of your return, and that's when you shared the news about your mom passing. I was actually in Toronto as part of kind of the closing of a trip of my own, because my mom had also passed that year, and I got to share that with you real quickly, and getting the opportunity to just kind of thank you for being so open and honest and having your feelings out there. You know, a lot of people like to talk about why wrestlers disappear for any reason, and for you to share that remarkably relatable experience, especially to me, was really something. So thank you for that.
No, no, and again, I'm sorry to hear about your side of things as well. But it was just, again, I chalk it up to being home in Canada. I've always felt very comfortable home in Canada. That's why I'm so excited about this tour that we're doing. But yeah, like you said, everybody has their own idea as to what's happening, or think they know what's going on by what they read online, or what they, the reality is that we're all human. We all have lives. We're all affected the same way. And life can catch up with us pretty quick if we're moving quick. So yeah, it was just it was a tough time, but being that open and being in that moment with all you guys collectively around, made it a made it a lot more easier for me to digest as well. So it was a mutual um, kind of deep breath and a big exhale. So no, that night meant a lot to me. So thank you for sharing that story. And yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, now we'll hold those memories, but we'll move forward here because you're back in a big way. I seem to see a lot different Shawn Spears now when I watch AEW than even when you first came in, when you were running with MJF for a bit. But now this Shawn Spears seems really reinvigorated. Like you've really got something to prove here. I even just watched your match on Rampage with the Butcher and the Blade there, and all the stuff going on out there. Like this is maybe a more aggressive Shawn Spears. I mean, what do you think Shawn Spears is trying to present this time around?
I think this is more of a carefree Sean Spears. You kind of touched on things that I've done since I've come in AEW, but even if we go back before that, I've kind of I take great pride in being around for over 21 years, and I take great pride in being a performer. To me, being a performer is being able to jump into any role at any given second and commit fully. Because chances are, if you're able to do that and you're enjoying it, the audience that is paying very good money to watch this show is going to enjoy it as well. So I take great pride in being able to hang my hat on a bunch of different hooks in terms of character and performance. Um, Having said that, it has only gotten me so far. And as I get older, or as time winds down in my in-ring wrestling career, there's a couple of things I need to check off the to-do list. And one of those things is what's being carried right now by Luchasaurus, or should I say being carried by Christian right now, but it belongs to Luchasaurus. And that's the TNT Championship. So I figured that what's been working before has allowed me to do some pretty incredible things. And, with the blood and guts and the stadium stampedes and the pay-per-views and stuff, it's been wonderful. But I think in order to now be more goal oriented towards a championship, I'm going to have to up my game. I'm going to have to step up. And basically, this is not necessarily going to do things by the book anymore. I'm not necessarily going to be as easy going as I may have once been. I'm not going to just go, yeah, sure, I'll do it. It's not going to be like that. It's time to be a little bit of a squeaky wheel. It's time to be a little combative, because it seems like in AEW that, if you want to get something done, you're going to have to get it done yourself. So that's where the mindset is at. That's where the aggression, I think, that you touched on or alluded to is kind of coming from. And it's just the tip of the iceberg, because I don't care anymore. I'm going to get what I want.
Preach, brother. I love that. Just go in and let whatever happens, but go in with a mission. That's great.
I'm tired of this underrated bull stuff.
I appreciate that, because we're on the radio too here, even though people can see this online through our website. I do want to ask you, the GOAT, our radio station, is in Lloydminster, which is right in between Saskatoon and Edmonton. I know that during your past travels in Canada, you've probably passed through on those highways a couple times here. Any memories of time in the prairies at all?
A lot of miles, a lot of kilometers, should I say. It's just, it's just, to me, I always get, I was just telling my wife this, I was just in Buffalo a couple weeks ago. Anytime I drove across the border, every time I just enter Canada, whether it be plane, crossing the border, it feels different. It feels like home. So everything is more beautiful to me. And that's not to take a stab at any other place in the world. There's a lot of beautiful places in this planet, but anytime I'm home, like, greenery in Canada is just more beautiful to me. So, and as weird as that sounds, so anytime I'm traveling through the province and I just get to be surrounded by almost nothing, or small mom and pop shops, or we go through the big cities and stuff like that, it's great. It's home, all of it. And I may not have even been there. It might be my first time being there, but it's still home, if that makes any sense. So everything is just, it's more beautiful to me. It's a better mindset for me. I'm more positive. I'm upbeat. If I was tired, I'm not anymore. I'm just good to be home. But no specific stories, if that's what you're looking for.
That's fine.
I apologize. I just get sentimental when we talk about Canada. So cheesy, but true.
I will ask you this, because a place you worked before usually tends to come through here in the wintertime. How does it feel to be able to tour Canada in the summer for a change?
It beats the Canadian winters, that is for sure. Anytime I get to perform at home, man, I mean, it's special. It's special. And I haven't been around the prairie in so long. I haven't been out west in so long. And so, we talk about the shows in the prairies, which is wonderful. We're also going to hit Calgary soon. I think another week and a half. Like, we're going all the way up to the West Coast. And I haven't been through this area in such a long time that you almost, you almost get reminded by how passionate wrestling fans are across the board. And we're hitting these places because, they're few and far between, these big shows. So I think that's what was on AEW's radar to begin with, is like, okay, if we're going to start in Toronto, great, we're going to go to Calgary, but we're going to hit everywhere in between. We're not just going to jump from one to the other. We want to make sure everybody gets to experience AEW. So that's what I'm excited for the most. And yeah, we're bringing the best that Canada has. It's pretty much on our roster.
When you say the best that Canada has, full disclosure, I work alongside with Bret Hart and his sons with Dungeon Wrestling out of Calgary, so I head there for all the shows. But I don't know if you even realize this, and maybe you want to share this with your roster mates. This Canadian loop that y'all are doing is very reminiscent of the old Stampede loop. It's a little mixed up because you're not quite going in the big circle, but I mean, how does it feel to know that you're hitting towns that so many legendary wrestlers, I mean, TV, I don't think has ever come to Regina of any kind. So to be there and be bringing your show and obviously be challenging a current champion and his title holder, I guess, how does it feel to be connected to the Canadian wrestling scene that way?
Your guess is as good as mine in terms of what's going through Christian's head right now. But yeah, like you said, it's challenging, but it's a challenge that AEW is willing to take on. We want to hit these markets. We want to bring television. We want to bring collisions and dynamites and rampages to all these places that might not have the luxury of having them before. And with that, we're going to bring you all our top stars, everybody. especially in Canada. It just makes sense. So if you're you're going to see the Omegas and the Jerichos and the Miz and all these guys that have done it before, but are also looking forward to doing it again, just under a different banner. In terms of, we talk about the hearts. I mean, there's no, you can't talk about Canadian wrestling and not have them at the very top of the list. That's just my opinion. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I mean, when we talk about the fact that the Dungeon, I've seen that the promotion, they've been kind of up and running for a little while now, which is fantastic. Like it just continues on that legacy. Canada has always had a rich history with professional wrestling. So to actually see second generation wrestlers or third, fourth, whatever, continuing on under, a heart-ish banner, and now being able to go back and kind of run those same loops and probably run into some of those guys and get to have those conversations. Like, I don't know if Brett will be in Calgary. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that he will be there. So don't quote me on that. But
I'm trying to pry it out of him right now. Actually, I haven't gone as far as to balls out ask him, but I do want to know if he's going to be there. So,
but I'm sure a lot of the talent that you've gone to see at these shows will be at AEW, and perhaps we'll get to see him. We'll get to share those stories. And either way, professional wrestling is going to continue on, and we're going to hit those areas. And we're just going to, at least for me, as a Canadian, as a proud Canadian, I get to be a part of it. No matter how small it is, I get to be a part of this. And again, it's going to sound cheesy, but this moment in time. As I get older, I think it's just a thing that comes with age. Like I tell a lot of my young students that, whether you're training or whether you're 5, 10, 15 years deep, you woke up this morning and you get to be a professional wrestler. Best gig in the world.
When you get to a town, whether you've been there before or not, if you have a little time before the show, what's the first thing you're looking for? What's something, because I'm saying this because I was in the market for a bunch of years, so I might be able to help you out here, or people watching or listening to this might offer you some solutions as well. But what's something that Shawn Spears looks for when he gets to a town?
I like to find a nice hole-in-the-wall gym. Not a nice, big, elaborate. I'll take a big, elaborate one if there's no other options, but I'm talking about, if I can find a place that's been owned for 30, 40 years, it's been in the family for X, and the equipment's run down, needs to be replaced, but it still works. I love those places. I love places with history. So same thing with like food, like mom and pop diners, like all those little small, everybody knows everybody that comes in, that those kind of places I'm a big fan of. But gym is probably at the top of the list. So if you know any hole in the wall gyms that are open at the weirdest of hours, that's right up my alley.
I'll do some digging and I'll tweet at you what I find. But something else I want you to look for when you get to Regina. Then, if I don't know, I mean, I look at you, I see you in the ring, I see you in your gear. I mean, do you touch carbs anymore? I don't know, but if you do, there's a place called Peg's Kitchen that has probably the best pierogies you'll have in a while. So Peg's Kitchen, yeah.
All right, I'll put that on the. Of course, I touch carbs. You only live once, man. As far as you know. You only live once, so I'm not gonna. I diet when I need to diet, but other than that, I live my life, brother. So pierogies, yeah, top of the list, brother.
I'm just saying, I live more one side of your life, I think, than the other, but it's all good, man.
Balance. It's all about balance.
That's it. We talked about the heritage of wrestling, Canadian wrestling, all that. There's going to be a match in Regina that, if you're a wrestling fan following independent wrestling, especially AEW's history and notably Ring of Honor's history, there's going to be a big, I don't know if you want to call it a return match after decades, but it's CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, which is a legendary rivalry in pro wrestling. And this is going to happen once again for the Owen Hart Foundation Memorial Tournament. And you get to be in the building for this. Like, I know you obviously have your own match, your own things to worry about here, but are you going to try and take a minute to see what happens in that match?
Oh, 100%. I'll be paying attention. This was, I think there's that, I want to say trilogy. That trilogy is, I started hearing about that when I first started breaking into wrestling. The match that those guys were putting on, the matches that Ring of Honor was putting on at the time, was just second to none. And if you go back and look at that roster then, and a few years after, in terms of where a lot of those talents are today, a lot of them have been to the very top of this industry. And to have these two guys specifically, Punk and Joe, who I've been in the ring with numerous occasions, kind of come back, and you can call it full circle if you really, if people want to. But But that is the beautiful thing about what AEW does. Now Ring of Honor is under the AEW banner. We're able to go back and tell that 15, 20-year-old story and bring it to the forefront for the very hardcore audience that we do cater to a great deal. Hey, remember this? And they go, yeah, remember this. Well, guess what we're going to give you in the semifinals of the Owen Hart tournament? We're going to give you this match. Like, I get kind of like, I get the same way wrestling fans do. I'm a wrestling fan as well. I'm the biggest wrestling fan there is. I decided to do this for a living. That's how big of a fan I am. So I'm just as excited as everybody else. But those kind of matches, and even going back to the Forbidden Door in Toronto, like the opportunity to have these kind of nostalgic matches or matches from back then, we can actually still have them now. But these other dream matches that we can pull guys from all over the place, like, what a time to be a pro wrestling fan. What a time to be a pro wrestler. So, yeah, I'm going to get eyes on this match. Don't ask me who I think is going to win. I don't know. And if I guess right, I don't want to get in trouble. But I will have eyes. If I'm pulling for anybody in this whole tournament, which you haven't asked, but I'm going to pull for the guy. If it was me, that it would be me. But other than that, I'd like to see Ricky Starks take this one home personally. But, I'm a big Starky baby fan. So, yeah, I'm going to get eyes on that match, and I have no doubt it's gonna blow everybody away.
I've been doing wrestling shows for about 2 years now, right on the regular, and ever since Ricky Stark showed up, he's been my guy too. So I appreciate that as well.
Very good. Love it. Love Ricky.
Just before we go here, a couple things. In addition to what we talked about earlier with your personal life, you're being a dad now with life on the road. At the same time, AEW's schedule allows you obviously to spend a little more time at home. How much appreciation do you have for even just minutes in the day? Because we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, where it's like, nothing stops. When you're able to take that time for yourself and your family compared to maybe a more hectic schedule you've had in the past, how important is that to you now to be able to do this?
It's everything. It's and again, it might be something that just comes with time or in terms of realizing, but having him has just changed my perspective on everything. It has allowed me to relax a little bit more. My priorities have shifted. That's probably why I don't care anymore, wrestling wise, in the best way possible. I'm going to go up there, I'm going to bust my ass, I'm going to do my job, and I'm going for what I want. Let the chips fall where they may. Other than that, if my child is healthy and he eats every night and he has the roof over his head and the wife is the same, I've done my job. I've done my job as a man, and I've done my job as a professional athlete. But it is just, it's been the best. I get all giddy when I think about it, and I get all giddy when I talk about it. But I didn't know what I was doing before. It was all about me before, and now I couldn't picture life without them. So, yeah, that's the goal. I am hoping that I'm around long enough that he gets to see me wrestle once, and that he's able to kind of remember it, like maybe 4 or 5. I'm hoping. But other than that, I mean, wrestling is it's fallen down the list in terms of priorities. It's family first, and then everything else.
Well, you know what, though? I think you're doing it the right way because you've got the priorities in order. At the same time, you're taking things seriously. Going after the TNT Championship, it looks like, if he can get past Christian Cage, again, I don't know what's going on there either. I met Christian once. He seemed a lot nicer back then than he is now. But either way, before we let you go, Shawn Spears, again, a part of All Elite Wrestling's Canadian tour, Regina this Saturday. Then, of course, Saskatoon, Calgary also on the docket coming up. If you want to be a part of any of these shows, get your tickets at Ticketmaster. But before I let you go, we are a rock station. You like to clang and bang, you said, in the old dusty, dirty gyms. Is there a specific rock tune especially that I can play for you to end this up with?
Oh, rock tune. Oh, man. I'll tell. Okay, so I've been on a kick lately. My boy, Zach from Shinedown. I'm a big Shinedown guy. My buddy, Zach, the guitarist from Shinedown. So anything just banging from Shinedown that you can play.
Shawn Spears, All Elite Wrestling. Thank you so much for the time, sir. I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Canada. I love you. I'll see you soon.